Hello again, my name's Daniel. Welcome back to my channel, Guilty Feet. I've got no rhythm. And today I'm going to do my week in books. And the most exciting thing that happened this week is my wife and I were both vaccinated. So that's good news. I don't know if I'm the first booktuber to be vaccinated, but I hope that for all of us, this is the last volume of the dystopian YA novel we're all living in. Second up, podcast-wise, I listened to a few more episodes of You're Booked with Daisy Buchanan, and the best of those, I think, was with the interview she did with Dawn French, Britain's national treasure, so I really enjoyed that and would recommend that, and I'll put the link below. One of the big book stories this week is the Costa Book Awards announced the winners in each of the 5 categories. The way it works is they have categories for best novel, best first novel, best poetry, best children's, best non-fiction, and they've now announced the winners in each of those, and those 5 books now go up against each other for the final prize, which will be in a few weeks. The only one of the winners that I read was the best first novel, which was Love After Love by Ingrid Persaud, which is a really strong first novel set in Trinidad, which I had a great experience with. Highly recommend it. I've already lent it to my mother-in-law. Then I wanted to talk a little bit about an article that was in The Guardian this week, which was 2021 in books, what to look forward to this year. I don't want to spend, my goal with the channel is not to spend time reading blurbs of books that are coming out that I may or may not read. I use other people's BookTube channels to get things on my radar, and when they show up on your radar enough, and then you get an opportunity to buy it, and then you think about it, and then so that's the kind of thing. These are the books from this list that are now on my radar, and I guess if I talk about them, they might also be on yours. So the first one, which I took from the list, is coming out in January, actually coming out next week, is some non-fiction from George Saunders, and it's called A Swim in a Pond in the Rain, and I understand it's a look at short stories by some of the Russian greats, so Chekhov, Tolstoy, Turgenev, Gogol, and it's non-fiction, so it's going to be, I guess, some literary criticism, how these stories work. I don't know, but I like George Saunders. This kind of thing might be right up my street. In February, there's a novel coming out from Shalom Auslander. Now, I have a rough relationship with Shalom Auslander. I read his first book of short stories called Beware of God, which I thought was really strong and really liked. And then I read his memoir called Foreskin's Lament, which made me about as angry as a book as any other book that I've read, and I wrote a stinking email to his publisher afterwards explaining all the ways in which his book made me angry, which thankfully no one ever replied to, and hopefully no one ever read. I then hate-read his third book, which was a novel, wait for it, about Anne Frank. And now he's got a book coming out called Mother for Dinner, which I understand is about cannibalism. It may be that Auslander and I are finally broken up, but we'll see. In March, there's a new book from Kazuo Ishiguro, the Nobel Prize winner, called Clara and the Sun. And, I've read everything that Ishiguro puts out, and I will continue to do so, so looking forward to that. There's also a new book from Edward St. Aubyn, which I'll probably wait and see on. I read all 5 of the Melrose novels in 2020, so I guess I'll wait to see what people say about this. And that's a sort of self-contained project, because there were 5 books in the series where this is something different. I'll see what people say. In April, there's a book called Monsters coming from Barry Windsor Smith. Those of you who know Barry Windsor Smith will understand why this is kind of exciting. He's one of the great artists of the Marvel comics. He also did a lot of work with Conan the Barbarian. I'm not a big fan of that, but I've loved his other stuff. And he's written and drawn this over a period of 35 years. I understand, coming from Fantagraphics, it'll be a great big work. And I guess, if I get the opportunity, I may try and pick this up. In May, there are 2 novels from women of whom I've read everything else they've written, and so I will almost certainly pick both of these up. The first is from Lisa McInerney, a book called The Rules of Revelation. Her first novel was won a prize, some prize, called The Glorious Heresies, which was an absolutely outstanding debut, and then I picked up her second book as well, so I'm looking forward to new work from Lisa McInerney. And then there's also a new book from Jhumpa Lahiri called Whereabouts. I've read everything Lahiri has written, and always impressive, so looking forward to new work from her. There's also, I see, a new memoir coming from Alison Bechdel, and it's called The Secret to Superhuman Strength. I don't think it's a superhero book, but always interesting, and again, we'll keep my eye out for that. In June, David Peace is finally publishing the third in his Tokyo set series. I read the first one 10, 12 years ago. I have the second one, and I didn't read it because I didn't know if he was ever going to complete the trilogy. So now that I know that Tokyo Redux is coming in June, I will go and read the second in the trilogy. I like David Peace. To me, he'll always be in the shadow of James Ellroy, or a British counterpart, James Ellroy. I think the Tokyo stuff is like an interesting departure, but he's certainly an interesting writer, and I read all the 4 books of the 74, 77, 80, 83, and then I read GB84, and I've read The Damned United, so worth looking out for. I like having a trilogy completed. And Zadie Smith also has a new book coming in June, and these are all in the UK, by the way, called The Wife of Wildstone. I've read all Smith's novels to date, and I will definitely pick this up when this comes out. In September, we have three books coming from 3 writers who I've very much enjoyed. A new book coming from Colson Whitehead called Harlan Shuffle, so I'll almost certainly pick that up, probably in hardback. There's a new book coming from Claire Louise Bennett. I read her first. It was a collection of short stories called Pond, and she has a book coming out in September called Check Out 19, which may be a novel or maybe more short stories. I don't care either way. Pond was so off-kilter and wonderful, and had this cumulatively just astonishing impact as these stories was kind of random, but just created this overall impact in the way that the best short story collections do. And for me as a reader, when I read very impressionistically, so when I read a short story collection, I read from cover to cover, and yes, some of the individual stories stand out and are remembered, but usually I come away with an impression of the whole. And Claire Louise Bennett's Pond was specifically designed, I think, for an impressionistic reader like me. So very much looking forward to see what she does next. And a new novel coming from Joshua Ferris. I read his first 3 books and enjoyed them. I don't think I read his last collection, but he has a book coming out in September called A Calling for Charlie Barnes, and I will definitely look out for that and see how that's reviewed. And then in October, we're told that Jonathan Franzen is publishing a new book. It's called Crossroads. I think it's the first part of a trilogy. I'm there for it. Sorry if you're not Franzen people, but that's way high on my radar, and I will pick that up as early as I can. So that's looking ahead. Looking back over the last week, I had a good reading week. I finished the library book by Susan Orlean, which I got. My cousin gave to me, so he had been given it, started, didn't love it, and said, "Take this, you can keep this." It had been on my radar. I hadn't ever pulled the trigger on it, but I was glad to have it, and I read it straight away. It went to the top of my TBR, and I read it straight away and really enjoyed it. It's, there's no getting away from the fact that it's one of those Sunday magazine long form bits of journalism that's just been puffed up into a 300-page book. I don't mind that. That's okay, but that's pretty much what it is. But if you're good at what you do, then that can be a very entertaining 300 pages. And there's a good story here. The Los Angeles library burnt down in 86, and here we have the story of someone who was suspected of arson, and we follow that thread. But what we also get is a history of the library, and also a history of libraries in general, specifically this library. We hear the stories of each of the people who were the appointed as librarian, and there's just so much anecdotal juiciness in here. The way that women rose high, began to be appreciated as librarians, and how it became to be seen as a woman's job. And that's discussed, and it's the breakdown of the sexism of the way these roles were appointed and how they were claimed and owned by the people who got them. A whole bunch of eccentrics who have filled this role over the years, and people very committed to this idea of public service and idea of library and book lending. And then as that evolves through time, what the library becomes in the electronic age, right up to the point today where we see the library as many things to many people, and the people working in the libraries. The library has become sort of a centre at home a centre point of gathering for the homeless and the disenfranchised. Non-native English speakers can come, and there are all sorts of clinics going on in the library to help people pay their bills, help people understand how to navigate life. And the story is told. It's a very sort of benevolent community that is working with the wider community and providing sort of safe harbour for, as I say, many of the disenfranchised people of Los Angeles. And it was a quite wonderful story in that. And then also some beautiful anecdotes of the crazy things that go on in libraries and things that people find. I have a passage here that I thought I would read, which is he meets one of the librarians called Sheila Nash, who works in the music section of the Los Angeles Library. Nash monitors the borrowing and returning of the music, and is also the keeper of secrets. The classical music world is small and competitive. The Desert Symphony doesn't want the Armenian General Benevolent Union Orchestra to know what they plan to play for their winter season. And the Filipino-American Orchestra doesn't want the New Valley Symphony Orchestra to know its plans. But at the same time, they don't want to end up all trying to sell tickets to the same program of Brahms's Deutsche Requiem. Nash is the soul of discretion, and she will with great subtlety direct a chamber music group away from Igor Stravinsky's 3 pieces for string quartet if she knows another chamber music group has just borrowed copies of it. She is also the soul of forbearance. Musicians appear to be incapable of remembering when their scores are due back at the library. Some of the music collection's items have racked up as much as $12,000 in overdue fines. Well, they're very artistic people, Nash said, squaring up a stack of Rimsky-Korsakov scores. They seem to have a way of misplacing things. I think it's a great read. I highly recommend it if you like books, if you like libraries. That was a lot of fun. After that, I read the second, to me, volume of The Goon. It's actually got a number 1 in it because the first one actually has a number 0 on it. And these are a collection of old, of the original comic books. I think they've been coloured. I think they might have originally been in black and white, and these have been coloured for these editions. The Dark Horse put them out. Dark Horse wasn't the original publisher, but then Eric Powell moved The Goon to Dark Horse, and so I think these were early collections. They also do these great big library editions with like 3 or 4 of these kind of trade paperbacks contained in each one. I enjoyed this. Zombies, punching, weirdo priests, fish people. It's gory, it's dark, it's hilarious. I'm not sure how essential it is, so I kind of got the point with 2 of these, and there's about another 14 of them. I may pick them up if I find them at a reasonable price. This one I bought on eBay in the UK for £4, and it has a cover price of $16.99. So I'm happier paying £4 for them, and if I can carry on doing that, I will, because their bags are fun. After that, I read in one sitting practically When Trouble Sleeps by Leye Adenle, which is the second in a series featuring Amaka Mbadiwe, who is a Nigerian daughter of an ambassador, and these are set in Lagos, and Amaka works with sex workers and tries to help them and save them, and she keeps a record of the Johns, and so the sex workers contact her before they leave the bar to find out if the person they're about to leave the bar with is safe or has any predilections that may be harmful or hurtful. And so she sort of very much works with this sort of underclass and helping them. And this is a bonkers story about political intrigue and secret brothels, and there's an albino in there, and there is a rogue SWAT team trying to bring vengeance for a lost member. Things get burnt down, things get blown up. I learned more about rigging an election in Nigeria than I ever imagined I would. It's utterly nuts. Loads of fun. I whizzed through this thing. It's 300 pages, and had a real blast with it. So Lagos Noir, if you're interested, Leye Adenle is the one to read. And I bought this on World of Books in the UK, I think for £3.59, has a cover price of £8.99, so it was affordable. And I say, in one sitting I whizzed through 300 pages, because why not? And after that, I took things down a little bit, and I just started reading the second in the Palliser books. So there's 6 books I read. The Barchester Chronicles, in the last 3 or 4 years I read those, 6 of those, and I moved on to the Palliser. The first one was called Can You Forgive Her, which makes me play the Pet Shop Boys song in my head, and this is the second one, Phineas Finn, which I bought also on eBay. Cost me £3.24, and the cover price is 65p. When I bought it on eBay, this was not the edition that I thought I was getting. I thought I was getting the a brand new latest Penguin Classic instead of this Penguin English Library, I imagine from the early 70s. Yeah, from 1972. But I don't care, because it smells fabulous, and I like having these sort of weirdo mismatched Penguin collections, and I'd rather read a Penguin than anything else. And I'm sort of 60-70 pages into this, and it'll probably take me the best part of the next week to get through it, but it hasn't let me down so far, Trollope, apart from some slight anti-Semitism. He's always good on political intrigue and social intrigue, and looking forward to getting through that. So that is my week in reading, and thank you for paying attention, listening, or listening even if you weren't paying attention. And if you got to this point, God bless you. Take care. Bye.